Dan Illman, Mike Beer, profiling Kentucky Derby contender Hot Rod Charlie, and he is a strong contender based on his 99 Beyer speed figure victory in the Louisiana Derby. Let's take a look at him doing it. This still shot from the fairgrounds of Hot Rod Charlie, under the wire, 2 lengths in front, 99 Beyer speed figure. And Mike, ever since this horse emerged on the scene with a maiden win last year, he has yet to run a poor race.
Yeah, he really has gotten a lot better from race to race. Starting last October, Dan, as you mentioned, they switched him to dirt. He got his maiden win. He sort of came out of nowhere and missed by less than a length to Essential Quality in the Breeders' Cup as a huge price. That almost felt like it could have been a little bit of a fluke, Dan, but he's come back with 2 starts since then, and he ran well in both of them.
A very good effort to kick off his campaign in the Robert B. Lewis, considering it was his first start of the layoff and his first step on the road to the Kentucky Derby. And in the Louisiana Derby, it was really good to see that improved speed. It was very important in that race to get right up close to the pace. Joel Rosario, who was riding Hot Rod Charlie in that race, got him close, and Hot Rod Charlie finished it off. In assessing the 99 Beyer speed figure, do you think that the race flow really helped Hot Rod Charlie in that race, and he could be facing a more difficult scenario in the Derby?
It's possible for sure. I mean, it was a race where Hot Rod Charlie and Midnight Bourbon both went to the front in that Louisiana Derby, and they wound up finishing 1-2, Dan. So you could certainly argue that perhaps the closers were up against it. I didn't really look at the race that way, if only because I feel like they were, in some ways, they were just the 2 best horses in the race. The horse who finished third, Obesos, did close along the inside to finish a pretty close third. So I don't feel like necessarily the closers were terribly compromised. I just thought this horse ran really well. Bumped between horses at the start. I like that he got himself through that to be able to make the lead up the backstretch. And then, listen, they weren't flying, but he wasn't exactly walking on the lead in there.
And as we take a look at his horse card, his dam has been very, very productive. Not only is Indian Miss Fold Louisiana Derby winner Hot Rod Charlie, she is also the dam of the classy and swift Matoli. The sire Oxbow won the Preakness. And remember, this year, the Louisiana Derby was run at 1 mile and 3/16. Do you really feel that gives him an important edge that he's run that far already? Or is it just a handicapping factor that you don't consider that much?
Yeah, and I feel like you at least want to pay attention to it, Dan. I mean, to prove that you can get a distance of ground can be a pretty big thing because, going 1.25 miles for the first time in your life in a race like the Derby, he certainly wouldn't be the first horse who got beat by the distance of the race. And it feels like now that he has the 1 mile and 3/16 win, you don't have to worry about it quite as much.
He was 94-1 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile when he ran that bang-up second to Champion Essential Quality. He was 5-2 in the Louisiana Derby. Where do you see fair odds for him at the Derby, at Derby post time? Again, we are obviously early out, but if the field remains the same, do you see Hot Rod Charlie being sort of a 6-1 chance? That's the second or third choice?
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be second or third choice. He certainly could be. I certainly feel like he's got to be, among maybe the top 5 choices in the race, Dan. I mean, you're right that, I think it's time to, sort of get past the fact that he was a huge long shot, sort of out of nowhere in the Breeders' Cup. He's already confirmed, as a matter of fact, he's done it twice since then, that he belongs with the top of this division.
Any noticeable weaknesses that you've seen from Hot Rod Charlie? We talked about his strengths, his Beyer speed figure, his ability at 1 mile and 3/16, the fact that he has shown improved tactical speed. Have you noticed any weaknesses to point out about Hot Rod Charlie?
I haven't. I like the fact that he, was able to use his speed more effectively last time. I suppose if you wanted to, sort of pick out a horse who's going to take money in the Derby, you could go 2 starts back to that Lewis, where he just had a wicked pace in front of him, and it felt like he had dead aim on that field and just couldn't quite get by. I'm not going to really hold that performance against him. I thought he ran fine that day, but you could argue that he hung a little bit that day.
It might come down to trip and race flow for a horse like Hot Rod Charlie, in my opinion. I think he is at his best when he can get up close to the pace with horses like Cato River in here. It'll be interesting to see how fast they go, but no doubt about it, he is one of the strong contenders in this year's Derby, coming off the 99 Beyer speed figure in the Louisiana Derby.